Okay. Hopefully this time we are live and hopefully this time we stay live. Welcome. Hopefully everybody is still here and hopping on and you can see me and hear me. Let me text my team. Should be on YouTube live now. Okay. All right. Hello from Sudan. Welcome. Okay. You guys see me. Good. It's not telling me anybody's on. I don't know what's going on in YouTube land. And so this is an interesting thing, guys, to have stuff like this. Like, it actually kind of cracks me up when things like this happen in events like this where we're talking about manifesting or creating your own reality, because people will be like, well, if you create your own reality, like, why did this happen? And this is where we have to remember that we play in all sorts of realities, right? So it's like, I have my own reality that I play in, but I also have the whole other world and everybody else's realities that we play in. And what we're going to create is usually what we're putting our attention and intention on. And so I don't ever think about YouTube not working, all of these things like that. And so when you have things like this in your life, this is a great way to be plugging in to the collective reality. And what's the collective reality? Oh, technology never works. Oh, these stupid systems that always fail us. And literally, like, this is like the words that were coming out of my mouth when I was like talking to Melissa. I was like, oh my God, why does YouTube and all these live services always fail us? Maybe we should just go to Zoom where it doesn't. So, right, I'm saying these things, which obviously means I'm buying in to those beliefs. I'm buying into those beliefs that, yeah, technology's wonky. Technology does weird things. Sometimes lives work, sometimes they don't. And if that's what I believe, that's what I'm going to create and that's what I'm going to see. And obviously, you saw it there. Now, often after you've done a lot of this work, which I have, I'm able to sit here really quickly and reset and say, hold on. I heard the words that just came out of my mouth. That is not what I want to be creating. This is what I want to be creating. We're going to go live. It's going to work. We're going to have a great event. Let's go. Right? And so you can change it quickly. Now, often you can't change it quickly if you have a bunch of other stuff going on in your world, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I don't mean your outer world, I mean your inner world. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is really biohacking the DNA. Because yesterday we talked about the first three things, which was we got to look at our reality, which is kind of what I just did in this situation. Okay, what is my reality saying to me? Well, my reality is saying to me that I obviously think technology glitches happen. I obviously think that going live, these things happen. I'm buying in to that belief system. I'm plugging into that belief system. And if I have a whole bunch of stuff, meaning nervous system stuff, DNA stuff that really has been for a long time coded saying that stuff doesn't work out for me, well, that's just going to reinforce it. That's just going to consistently reinforce it. So that first step is looking at our reality to see, like, what's our reality telling us? What's working? What's not? What needs to shift? Then that second step is actually looking and saying, like, what do we want to happen? Well, I want my lives to work. I want people to show up and be able to see this and da 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 da. But obviously there's a gap. And so what's living in that gap? That gap from where you want to be to where you are. What's living? Oh, I love all these people. We have Sudan, Munich. I love when you guys are just from all over the place. How fun. So what's living in that gap? That's what we have to figure out. Now, somebody yesterday mentioned, oh, this you sound like the work of Joe Dispenza and all these people that talk about like creating your own reality and like our mind projects what we create and blah 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 blah. Part of this work is there, but they're missing an entirely different part. So I say there's kind of like a line. And most of the people talk about all of this over here. They talk about your mind power to create. They talk about, some of them even talk about your nervous system. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, is going into our nervous system and our DNA. Some people talk about our nervous system and how we have to, cultivate a safety feeling. We have to focus on our mind, and then we can create what we want. So like Joe Dispenza's call to fame is that he injured his back. Everybody told him he was going to be in a cast for like years. And instead, with the power of his mind, he was able to completely heal himself. And that does totally happen. But it happens usually when this other side is also in alignment with it, meaning he already felt empowered and believed in his ability to heal himself. So creating that mind power, focusing on that, and doing the nervous system stuff worked. Now, for most of us, and the way the world teaches it is that all of this over here is the way. But there's actually a whole bunch of stuff over here that is creating the gap for most of us. So here you are doing your mind stuff and creating safety with your nervous system. But most people, when they do that, and tell me if this stands true for you, you end up in this up and down battle, right? Where it's like, it's working, it's not working. It's working, it's not working. You feel good, you're back down. You feel good, you're back down. You feel good, you're back down. And that's because we're fighting with that gap. There's actually a gap over here. This side, your nervous system and your mind might be on board, but it's not on board with your DNA and your DNA expression. So, right, a lot of you are saying, yes, the roller coaster. We want to get to a place where it's expansion, consistent expansion. You're on a trajectory like this. And that's what we teach you how to do. So when people say like, oh, you teach the same stuff. No. Because that's going to be a constant fight against that gap over here. And that's why a lot of people experience that. They experience that thing where they're focusing, the Joe Dispenza's work, where I'm focusing on what I want. I'm in the vortex, as like Abraham Hicks calls it, but then you fall out of the vortex. The minute you stop doing the work, the minute you stop doing all of the stuff. We want to get to the place where the base is so strong that, yeah, we will still have to continue to cultivate safety within our nervous system and work on our mind, but it'll be because we're expanding, not because we're trying to hold this so that this doesn't override. And a lot of the work around the positive mindset, the creating of your own reality, the research that was done basically said that when you put positive and mind power over your neuropeptides, and your neuropeptides are what come from your DNA, they express your DNA, they travel to your nervous system, and they tell your body and brain, they handle everything. They are kingpin. They're the force running everything. And so what the research said was that when you focus on the neuropeptides and you put positiveness on them, you change your life, good things happen. Now, the problem is you and I aren't going to be able to walk around 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, raining on positive onto those neuropeptides. And because you're fighting against DNA that says, you don't get to have that. That's not for you. This disease you get to have. Nope. Right? You're fighting against a DNA that says all of this. It's going to be a constant up and down. Now, what we need to do is we need to go in and biohack that DNA. We need to actually change the expression of our DNA so that this is good. You're not constantly having to just fight it to stay here. You're able to actually get up there. And yes, I'm sorry for those of you that are hopping on late. I know we had to send out a new link it's kind of annoying actually. We haven't done a live event on YouTube before. And so when we went live, that first link didn't work. And so it's kind of annoying because like it like throws out the link. It's like link gone. And then I had to start a new link. And so yeah, I hope everybody finds us. If not, the replay will be out and everybody will get it. But either way, we're back for day 2 and it's going to be good. We were just kind of talking about the whole thing that just happened with me. We're like, oh, I create my own reality. Well, why didn't your technology work? Well, I didn't put any focus on my technology working. In fact, I had in my head been saying like, oh, the technology always does stuff like this. So obviously like, and that's very much a collective conscious belief. So let's talk about our judgment. So I gave you, see, and this is the stuff, like, I don't even want to believe that, Michelle. Mercury's in retrograde. Like, this is the stuff that gets into our heads. Oh, Mercury's in retrograde. Our technology's not going to work. Well, that's because as a collective, we just believe in that stuff. We just believe in the idea. We love to make sense out of the world. We love to say, well, oh, the economy's down. Oh, it's because of this. Instead of actually saying, no, it's just because we believe it and we're creating it. Like Mercury retrograde only happens. Like I watch people all the time be like, oh my God, like all this is happening. And I'm like, it's not happening to me. Yes. Mercury retrograde, things work great for me in Mercury retrograde. And I had to take a moment and I had to reset the energy and clear it out. And then we got live. Just the old link was dead. I don't know how yet to believe in that resurfacing. And so it is. You can change all of this. Now, what we have to really understand is that there's a bigger piece to this story than just our mindset. And so yesterday we talked about looking at our reality. We talked kind of about how creating your whole reality works. We talked about looking at our reality, seeing what doesn't work, seeing what does work, seeing what we need to shift, and then looking at what we want. And one of the things I said is look at your judgments. Now, let's talk about how our judgments started. Because I had said to you that our wants are in our judgments. The places we aren't free are in our judgments. And so how do our judgments start? And how does this tie into biohacking our DNA? Because we're going to have to biohack our DNA if we want to create our own reality. If you are here and like I said, have felt like you're on that roller coaster of life, it's because you've been only doing about 20% of the work that needs to be done to create your own reality. And it's hard. You have to constantly do the positive thinking, the positive holding it all together work. And that's a lot of work. And then you can't do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So stuff you don't want creeps in. And it's this constant roller coaster ride that you're on. Okay, so let's talk about this. So how did your judgments even start? Those judgments that you have that are literal windows to your soul showing you your denied wants. How did they even start? Well, they usually started either before your time. So they started back ancestrally. Now, let's talk a little bit about our ancestral stuff. Because you know how people say like our reptilian brain. Oh, yay. I'm glad you guys are finally finding us and hopping on. Your reptilian brain. You know, they say like your computer freaks out. You know, your computer freaks out and you have a full on like panicked feeling. And they'll say, this is what people will say to you, right? You have a full on panicked feeling because your reptilian brain thinks you're being chased by a tiger. So you just need to calm your nervous system and breathe and tell it you're not being chased by a tiger. It's just a computer. Now, the interesting thing about that is part of that is true. It's a self-soothing, calming mechanism. And it is actually part of our 7-step formula to creating what you want. You have to create safety for the nervous system. The thing is, though, is that feeling is going to keep coming back. That fear, every time that happens, that fear is going to keep coming back. That fear is going to keep coming back. When you procrastinate and you finally pushed yourself through procrastination, but then the procrastination's back the next day and you have to push through. It's this constant fight we experience against fear and procrastination and stress and anxiety and our emotions, basically, right? We're fighting these feelings that we have because instead of actually removing them, we are just trying to calm them. So we're always trying to do calm them, calm them, calm them, calm them. And that's what leads to the roller coaster. So our judgment started first and foremost back with our ancestors. Yay, I'm so glad you guys are finding us. Our judgment started back with our ancestors. They started back with our ancestors when things like, people got killed for speaking their truth. Ever feel terrified to actually say what you want to say? Yeah, likely because there's been 1,000+ years behind you, maybe probably even more, 100,000+ years plus of people speaking their truth and being killed for it, or thrown in jail, or losing everything, right? There's all this stuff in our back. And you know what? Our DNA is created from that. It's created from that. Oh, don't speak your truth. You're going to die. You're going to die. Locked in the DNA, locked in the DNA, locked in the DNA. Oh, don't make lots of money. You get in trouble for that. Locked in our DNA, locked in our DNA, locked in our DNA. So that's the first place these judgments start. Money's not good. Speaking our truth's not good. That person shouldn't do that. This is where they start. Next place they start is usually in our childhood, where you attempt to be fully you and you're shamed for it. You're in trouble for it. Something bad happens to you for it. And you all of a sudden go, oh, don't do that again. Now, the thing about this is there would actually be an easy way for us not to form these judgments. These judgments get formed because we do not process the emotions we have around them. So the way this world actually works, you guys, is we are meant to evolve. We're meant to evolve. We're meant to create our own realities. We're meant to have this kick-ass experience on this planet. Yes, sometimes with challenges, but they're not supposed to be challenges that just hit us upside the head over and over and over and over again. We're supposed to learn and expand and grow for them. But here's what the entire world is missing is that we learn and experience and create through our emotions, not through our thoughts, not through anything other than our feelings and our emotions. And you know what? The way we learn, the way we understand what happened to us is we have to fully feel it, fully. And most people, even the people, I just got certified in breath work and another emotional healing technique. And even then I hear those people speak. The breathwork people speak about emotions, and breathwork can be a very emotional experience, but then they'll say in your day-to-day life, don't let the emotion take hold of you. And if you need to feel the emotion, set a timer. Give yourself 90 seconds to feel that emotion and then move on. No. When you do that, you are stopping the evolution and you are creating the gap between where you want to be and where you are, because it's those emotions that are that are influencing your neuropeptides that are keeping your DNA set points right there. So you were born with a bunch of DNA set points. You were born with set points that said, look at your genetics. We know this from a science place. You have all these genetics that basically say, this is going to be your eye color. This is going to be what your lips look like. This is going to be this is going to be how happy. There's a book that was just written about happiness that basically did all this research and basically said, give up on happiness. It's basically genetically predisposed for you. You only get to be so happy, so joyful, so any of these things. That's just how it is. And so when you often see people change their life through a choice, or like Joe Dispenza, who changed his life through focusing on this, he was already genetic predisposed for all of this stuff. And so it worked. But what happens when we're not genetically predisposed? What happens when we're given the genes of poverty, given the genes of, lack, given the genes of disease, given the genes of bad of all the things we don't want? What if those are our set points? You don't get to be very happy. And that's what we see in the world. And everybody's just fighting themselves, trying to get over here and wondering why they can't have this satisfaction. This is where we have to start biohacking our DNA. Because otherwise, these set points, we call them DNA set points, they sit here. And they're expressed by the neuropeptides, which communicate with your nervous system, which then communicates with your brain, that then tells everything else to go do the stuff. So it starts here with our DNA. Now, interestingly enough, our neuropeptides are very influenced by our emotions. And this is kind of what the Joe Dispenza's work said, was that, if we put happy thoughts with our neuropeptides, they get happy. And then they send happy signals to our nervous system, happy signals to our brain, and everybody's happy. Yay! But the only problem with that is that it only works if you are constantly sending positive thoughts to your neuropeptides. And you have to really be able to feel it, because neuropeptides are run by feelings. So if you can't feel those positive thoughts when you're saying things, and I know this happens to plenty of you, how often are you sitting here saying your affirmations? And as you say your affirmations, you're like in the back of your head being like, yeah, I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe that. No, that's not going to happen for me. Right? And actually, as you're saying them, you're feeling fear and anxiety. You're feeling something that's not in alignment with what you're saying. I know when I was doing this work, that's how I would always feel. It's like, I'm saying the positive thing. I'm saying the positive thing. I'm like jumping on a trampoline, like Tony Robinson says, right? To get into an excited mood. You're not getting into excited mood. You're actually just pumping your body full of adrenaline. And when you do that, it gives you a false sense of feeling excited. But your body, your neuropeptides know that that's an adrenaline high. And so it's not going to change anything back here with your DNA set points or your neuropeptides that are telling everything else what to do. And so you're like screwed. You're like, why isn't this working? Well, because we got to take a step back and we got to start looking at our set points. Now, how do we change our set points? This is where the emotions come in. This is where we actually have to start feeling our emotions. And this is where tomorrow we're going to talk about the rapid relief technique, where we really, really show you guys how to really do this. Today's setting the stage for this. And a lot of you who are in here who have worked with us before, who are in our membership, you're familiar with the rapid relief technique. I'm going to give you some even juicier pieces tomorrow that are going to help. I have some new stuff to share around it, which I'm excited for. But we have to start looking at these emotions, and we have to start fully expressing them and fully feeling them, not just acknowledging them, not just noticing them, not just squeaking out tears for 90 seconds and then going on with our day. We actually have to fully let them feel, because it's kind of like emotions, think of it as a circle. It sets off this whole chain reaction. It needs to get up to here to actually reset and release. But most of us are going and we're stopping it right here. And when we stop it right here, it just keeps releasing stuff we don't want, stuff that's just enforcing these DNA set points that we're trying to change. Now, once we remove the emotions, so you go back to these judgments and you start feeling, and this is what we're going to learn on tomorrow. I'm going to talk to you about this. We're going to talk about, go back to those judgments and let's start seeing what feelings. Remember that gap I talked about in the beginning? That gap that we had, that we've created, right? Our mind's over here wanting this, but our DNA and our nervous system are still over here. We got this gap. We got to get everything on board. And it starts with these emotions. Now, the tricky thing is, and this is why I highly suggest every single one of you who is not in our membership joins our membership, because you need it so that you can continue on this path of diving in and getting all of this stuff out. Because the problem is this, you guys, we are terrified of our emotions. We are terrified of our emotions. We're terrified of feeling our emotions. We're terrified of looking at our emotions. We're terrified of them. The world has made us terrified of them. And it's done it, I think, purposefully in a way, because when you're scared of your emotions, it keeps you from your power. It keeps you oppressed. It keeps you from allowing to tap into that divine essence and live your full self. So of course it works to keep people oppressed, keep you from your emotions, keep you from yourself, keep you from your power. And so we're constantly made to be scared of them. And you see it constantly. Like even when I watch people who, like I said, do breath work and who talk about how nervous system work and all of this, I've trained with these people, and still they skirt often the true depths of where you need to go to really get your emotions out. It's not scary. It's not hard, but it's absolutely life-changing when you do it. Absolutely life-changing. Because then what happens is, you guys, these DNA set points that said, oh, you only get to be this happy. Oh, you don't get to have that much money. They unlock. Unlocked. And now these neuropeptides back here are free range to express differently. So then you cultivate safety within your nervous system. You start doing different things with your mind, reminding your mind, good things get to happen to me, money gets to come to me. We create safety around that. There's no problem now with this expression. And so now our deepest form of expression is also expressing this. It's feeling safe within our nervous system to actually go out and do these things. And furthermore, now the things like fear and procrastination and stress and anxiety are gone. You know, in our membership, we do every morning, I do the daily dose, which is the cultivation of creating safety for your nervous system and focusing on what we want. Once you do the clean out and get all of this crap out, once you really biohack your DNA, that's all you need. That's all you need is this 10 minutes to really just remind your body and focus on where you want to go. And if emotions show up, you sit with them, you feel them, you use the rapid relief technique, and you move through them. And it's easy peasy. You're now on a trajectory like this. Verse 1 that's like this, which is what most of us are on, this like up and down thing. And this one, there may be little like moments where it's like, because you're going through something, you're learning something, but it's not like the ones where you're like, finally, I've made it. Back to where I started. Blah, 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 blah. And you're over. And I'll talk about the membership more tomorrow, but really it's completely and totally created to be exactly the things you need to create your own reality intentionally and get what you want, like step by step. It is true. Exactly, Michelle. The anxiety of dealing with emotions is worse than actually doing the work. And having a life that you aren't fully in love with, having a life when people say they are looking for happiness, like, you guys, happiness isn't found. It's true. It's not found in money. It's not found in any of those things. It's found in you. It's found in you right here, right now. All the rest of those things are icing on the cake. Don't get me wrong. I freaking love the physical realm. I love money. I love things. I love fancy ass things. I love all the things. Bring it on. But if all of that went away, my ass would still be happy. I would still find joy in this life. I would still laugh it up, and I would know that I could do it all over again. I would know it was a moment in time, a crucial moment, in fact, for me to understand something and to go deeper with myself and to remove something in my DNA set points that needs to be changed. That's freaking living, you guys. When there is no fear, when people say you got to walk with fear, fuck that. You don't have to walk with fear. You have to get to know fear. You have to get in there and feel it all and get it out of your body. And then you know what? Fear doesn't exist. Fear doesn't exist. Anxiety doesn't exist. Stress doesn't exist. Procrastination doesn't exist. And when it does pop back in, you're like, interesting. Interesting. And you know what to do with it. You know why it's showing up because you're having an evolution moment. You've asked for something. Remember, the universe always says yes. The universe always says yes. And when you ask, when you made those declarations about the things that you want, the universe is going to come back and it's going to show you the things standing in your way. It's going to show you the things standing in your way, right? I want my technology to be easy peasy, always flowing. Well, today it wasn't. So the universe very clearly showed me I need to go do some more intentional work around knowing that any platform I use works for me. Any technology I use works for me. Anytime I try to do something, it works for me. Because it didn't really work today. It worked eventually, cleared it out, and we were on our path. And it's true. Like Michelle said, Corey, stick with me. We have a lot of free stuff. You guys, we even do our weekly wake up tomorrow on YouTube. We do a weekly wake up where tomorrow when I show you our style of tapping, the rapid relief technique, I do it every Wednesday for free with you guys. We've had a lot of people who hang out with us until they're able to afford a membership with us. And I'll talk all about that tomorrow. I have this little like mosquito that's traveling around here. I'm like, get out of here, friend. Go away. And I know for some of you too that are in countries like Sudan, I know I saw you on here. If you guys are interested in joining our membership, and I'll tell you this more tomorrow, but I know a lot of times the living gap is much different. Email us and we have different rates for some of those other countries like Turkey and Sudan and India, and a lot of those areas where it's like, our US dollars is like, it's like such a big difference between your cost of living and our cost of living. When we remove these things, does it remove it from our children's DNA too? Yes. And this is what is absolutely fascinating to me with this work is not only with your children, but often your parents. I always tell the story is like when I did all this work around money, I remember one day my mom calling me and she was like, I don't know what is going on, but like, I just feel so calm around money these days. She's like, I've always had stress around money. She always has, like, even when she had money, it's always stressful. And she's like, I feel so different around it now. And I was like, thinking in my head, well, yeah, because I've been like clearing out our ancestral DNA around this freaking money stuff. Like I've been doing a lot of work. And so it's amazing. And it's also amazing to see too, the people who are in your closest world, spouses, friends, that just being in that energy too will also influence them. Like it will really influence them. And it's really, really fascinating. And it's fascinating to watch your kids. Often sometimes when I remove big emotions, I'll notice all of a sudden my kids will come home or be home and they'll have this big emotion they have to release. And I'll think, I bet you they're releasing that. Like, just like I did, like they had something they needed to release around this too. So it's really, really fascinating to be in this world and understand how this works because it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing. I have never seen, and I've been in this world for a long time, and I've done a lot of things, and we've worked with tens of thousands of people, and I've never really seen the change that occurs with this work, like with other stuff. When you really get to that core stuff with your emotions, it changes everything. And then when you add it with all of our full steps in there, it's really, really powerful. So the thing here is we have all these ancestral emotions. We have all this stuff from childhood. So how do we get to it? Because a lot of times, guys, you're like, Sarah, I don't even know what's there. Like, I don't even know what's there. I don't know what emotions are there. Like, and this is why I said, like, I love our membership because like, it sometimes takes a moment for us to get used to feeling these emotions. But here's where we start. We start with what's happening in our life that's causing an emotion. What's happening in our life that's causing an emotion? Now, It's not necessarily going to look on the surface like it will look at the end. I'll give you an example. This one time, I walk into the house and I said something to my husband. I don't even remember what it was. And he got all snippy with me. I'm trying to watch this. What are you doing? Bah! Now, the old me would have been like, don't talk to me like that. Do not speak to me like that. I came in here and asked you a question and you went all on me. Now, if I did that, he would have gotten all defensive because nobody likes, and we would have been in this thing, right? And sometimes people are being assholes and you need to have a conversation with them. But sometimes the conversation needs to wait. So it did cause an emotion in me. And this is where you guys got to kind of have to become a detective a little bit. You have to become a detective. You have to become a detective. You have to be like, wait, was that an emotion? And a lot of times people think that if they just changed their life, the emotion would go away. Like I hear people say things like, if my kids would just listen, I wouldn't have this emotion. Not true. If your kids started to listen, that would be great. But something else would pop up in your life that would cause this annoyance or this emotion, because it's not about what's happening out here. It's actually about what's happening in here. And when there is an emotional reaction, when you are having an emotional reaction of any sort show up, there is something there. And when you do this work, when we get to day 3 and you know how to do all of it and you start doing it in your life, you'll be amazed how things that used to drive you nuts don't even bother you at all anymore. That's like the number one thing we always hear from people. They're like, I just can't believe how like things that they don't even faze me. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because it was never about that. It was about you. The things that bring up an emotion in us, guys, are golden. They are golden. And unfortunately, the entire world tells us to ignore them, stay away from them, put boundaries around them, not look at them, breathe through them, and never process the emotion. And that's why we're all fucking stuck. That's why our world is like, meh, and nobody's actually creating the reality that they want. I mean, really, think about that. How many people do you know that are just flying through life being like, life is fantastic, everything works out for me? Usually not many. Most of those people who are even saying that, that's not what's happening for them. I've been in the big ass masterminds with all the big wigs, and been like, oh, I finally found my people. Cause like, that's how I live. I'm like, I'm the happiest person alive. Like everything's working out for me. And when it doesn't, I know exactly what to do and I'm back on top. And I get in with these people and I'm like, y'all are liars. You guys are all back, in the background here complaining about how everything's not working and how this is and how you're so stressed and how you're burned out. And then you're jumping online to be like, life is amazing. You got diseases, you got autoimmune things. I'm like, this isn't even real. And I know that that's how a lot of people feel. They feel like, oh, Sarah, she's just out here telling us everything works amazing for her. It does. And when it doesn't, I tell you. Like my whole 2022 that was the shit show and didn't work out well for me. Like I was so transparent about that. I've been being like, guys, I lost my magic. What the hell? It was because I stopped doing all of these things I knew how to do. I thought that it was just solid. It was set. I was good. What I realized is you got to do a little bit of it. That's where the daily doses in our membership came from. You do the big clean out, you reset those set points, everything's on track, but you got to do a little bit of it. Those 10 minutes to keep the expansion, to keep it going, or they start to go back. Got to do a little bit of it. But if you do that, then it's this constant uphill. It's a constant trajectory, and true happiness is really found. True happiness, where even when things go wonky, because even in 2022, when things went wonky, I was still happy. I knew that we would get back. I was just like, man, something big is here. Like, I got to understand this. And I did. I learned so much. I learned so much in 2022. I am so thankful for all that happened, because now I'm back stronger than ever. I understand things deeper than before. It was so flippin' necessary. And so when you can look at life like that, life just becomes a joy to live. like it becomes a flippin' joy to live. It eliminates the fear, it eliminates the stress, it eliminates the anxiety. There's a trust, there's a knowing that things are always going to happen and work out for you. And that was definitely not how I was before. Like, God, before I discovered this and started using this in my life, ugh, it was fear and all the stress and anxiety and disease and all the things a person could have. But that's not the way. There's a different way. So, anyways, I've transgressed. Let's go back to my story with my husband. So when my husband said that to me and I had that emotional reaction, I used it. I took a time out. I went into my closet, and I'm going to talk to you tomorrow about our rapid relief technique and how to do it. But I fully felt the emotion. I fully felt it. I didn't hold back. I didn't give myself a time limit. I didn't judge myself for what was coming up. I said all the things I wanted to say. And sometimes as humans, you guys, we are nasty. We are nasty, mean, vindictive little things. We don't like to think we are. We don't like to see that side of us. And let me tell you this, if you're over there judging nasty, vindictive little trolls online, I'm going to tell you why. Because you have that in you too, friend. You have a whole bunch of nasty little vindictive things you want to say that need to come out of you. Now, they're not for the people. Because here's the thing. When those little trolls are online saying all these things, that is very true for them. But it's not meant for the other person. They need to go use their ickiness, that stuff that's living in them, to understand what's at the core of this. So here's how you use what's happening. So here my husband said something to me. I felt like, wow, that's really mean. I went in, I started using the rapid relief technique. And at the core of that emotion was, don't dismiss me. Don't dismiss me. Why do people dismiss me? And I started seeing all these flashbacks really of being a child and just constantly being dismissed, and not necessarily in a mean way, but like busy parents just being like, okay, I'll get to you in a second. Okay, can you please go over there? I will be back. I gotta leave, honey. You'll be fine. Just constantly being dismissed. And my little self was never able to feel those emotions. I truly believe that if our children are free and able to feel all of their emotions, we would be completely different adults. If I, as that little girl, was able, when she got dismissed, to sit and cry and cry and cry and cry and feel all of that, I would have realized, like, I'm not being dismissed. My parents are busy. They're doing their own thing. I'm freaking fantastic. And I want to bring people into my life that don't dismiss me. And I'd go find them. That's what I teach my kids, even with parents, when they're like, well, you don't pay enough attention to me, or they say things like this. And I say, you know what? I will try to do better. But if I don't, realize that has nothing to do with you. That's on me. And if you want people to pay attention to you, go find them. It might not be me. It might not be me. And so it's a really interesting way to do human. It's the way I think we were meant to do human. But we're not. Little friend, my little mosquito friend's back. But we're not doing it that way. So I went and I felt it, and I felt all the pain around feeling dismissed and all of this. And now what was really interesting is this was very early on in my business, and I was wanting to get onto social media, but I was really scared to. I kept procrastinating, right? I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this great post, and then I wouldn't do it. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to put myself out there, and then I wouldn't do it. And so I had kind of made an intention, like I had you guys do yesterday, where I was like, what do you want? Well, one of the things that I wanted was to be visible online and to grow an online audience. Well, the lovely universe entered my husband to make this little comment that got my emotions going, that allowed me to go and process this big old rock I had in there around people dismiss me, people dismiss me, people dismiss me, where I was making it mean all of this stuff about me. And so as I was able to feel that emotion, fully feel it, then it eventually resolved. I closed the loop. And so the emotion leaves, and then you're like, okay, you see it clearly. You see that your parents weren't dismissing you. You see that your parents were busy people. Like when we talk forgiveness, we're very good at logicking our emotions away. This is something Melissa always says, logicking our emotions away. We get very good at making sense out of them. My parents did love me. They were giving me as much as they could. And I knew that from a logical sense, but I didn't know that from a 5-year-old emotional sense. And as long as those emotions are still in there, locking in my DNA of I get dismissed, I get dismissed, I get dismissed, I get dismissed. Don't matter what my brain thinks. Doesn't matter what my brain thinks. My brain thinks can say all day long, I'm going to make that post. People love me. I have an online audience that adores me. But it's going nowhere because my nervous system and my DNA and my neuropeptides aren't on board with it. And even if I make my nervous system feel safe, oh, you're safe, you're safe, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. It's going to be a constant fight. The fear is going to show up. I'm going to have to push it down. The fear is going to show up. I'm going to have to push it down. Or we just go back to the core emotion here. We feel it. It leaves. Ba-doop, unlocked. And then logically, I can see that my parents weren't really dismissing me. They were just living their lives and that's life. But now emotionally, I can feel solid behind it. I can feel like I'm a pretty awesome person. I'm going to go out and do this. And then now I'm all on board. So now writing that post seems easy. Let's go. Let's do it. I don't have the fear. I don't have the procrastination. And if I do have a little bit of the fear and the procrastination because it's something new now and I'm resetting all of this, when I start doing the thing, it gets easier and easier and easier each time. And eventually it's gone. It's not a constant fight against myself, which is how most of us are living. We come to this concept of creating our own reality. We come to this concept of manifesting, and we end up in this constant fight with ourselves versus this very loving, expansive relationship that just feels good to continue to cultivate and grow. And so it doesn't feel good at all. And we don't want that. We don't want that. So what do we have to start doing? Well, we have to, like, what's our step here? We have to start using what's happening in life to remove that deep DNA set point coding. So, and we're going to talk tomorrow. I'm going to give you the rapid relief technique. And so I'm going to show you how we do the full tapping. Now, the tapping, and if you're familiar with EFT or TFT or other forms of tapping, the rapid relief technique is a little bit different. We use a little bit different points and we say things differently. I don't need to give you a script. I don't need to give you anything like that. I'm going to teach you how to have it at your fingertips to use when literally at your fingertips to use whenever you need to remove these obstacles and start changing your DNA set points. The cool thing about it is when we tap, it actually sends a vibrational signal. All the research done on tapping and EFT and all of that good stuff actually talks about how it creates a calming sense in the body, which it does, which is actually helpful because it makes your body feel safe to feel these emotions. But what nobody talks about is the other thing that it's doing, which is actually creating a vibration that's shaking things loose, baby. And so most tapping, EFT and TFT and stuff, is often used to tap on the positive, right? Or what we're wanting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that that can be a nervous system reprogramming in a way. It's kind of like a soothing thing to do. But what it's also doing is sending a signal down into your body that's shaking that stuff up that's been real stuck down in there deep. Because remember, like I said yesterday, when something shows up in your life that you don't want and you have that emotion around it, most of us are just sticking it down in there. And when we stick it down in there, it just keeps reinforcing that set point that's creating what we don't want. And so you often just keep creating what you don't want more and more. We actually need to go and extract that emotion, fully express it, so that then we can create something different. And that's where the rapid relief technique comes in. It really, really teaches you how to do this. I love the feeling after you have tapped and felt them. Yes, it's amazing. Like you feel all of a sudden like, oh, wow, I feel so much lighter. I feel so much better. And I want those of you who are in here who are brand new to our world that have never done this form of tapping, like, I want you to understand this tapping has literally transformed people's lives, even from like the health standpoint. Like people who have had chronic illnesses that they could have never been able to get rid of or had any movement towards getting healthy. Illness is leaving, illness is gone. All sorts of craziness happens as you start to pull this stuff out. It's like magic. Your world starts to change. If you feel like you've been like looking for the thing to change, like you're a seeker and you've been constantly seeking, trying to find like, what is the thing? This is it. This work, this stuff I'm talking about really works. And we even teach now breath work. I brought breath work into the work as well, because breath work also helps sometimes when you can't get past your consciousness, because the tapping is you're still conscious, right? You're still conscious. And so sometimes you actually can't get past that nervous system safety mechanism to really get to it, where with breath work, it often kind of bypasses the brain. So they're at a beautiful combination. And then after the breath work, it's great to use the RRT tapping, because then it brings the brain and the consciousness back on board, which we often need. We need the words, we need the things, because it allows for all the systems to get fully on board. Often the breath work by itself, it's like missing components. You need some other components that go with it. You need the rest of the formula to really go with it. I no longer have allergies. I used to have such bad allergies to the environment things. Exactly. Like, it's like amazing things like that. I used to have a ton of food allergies, you guys. Like, oh my God. Now I eat anything and everything that I want. Like, I don't even think twice about it, and nothing bothers me, because I literally have the belief that anything and everything I put into my body uses for good. And I like, it really works. That one took me a while to really, really cultivate and create and anchor into. And that's one that I literally have to keep at all the time, because that's not what the world tells us at all. Like, right? Like, that's not at all what the world tells us. There's good food and bad food and this food and that food. But like, nope. The only thing I feel like I still haven't been able to get on board with is, for some reason, eggs. Eggs can still bother me. And I'm like, no. But not all the time, but sometimes. And so it's really amazing how you just use what's happening in your reality. That's step one, to start understanding what you're believing, figure out what you want, start seeing what shows up, and then use what's showing up in our lives to start removing the emotions that are keeping that DNA on lockdown, and really biohack that DNA so that we can start creating what we want. So mine have subsided. And when my symptoms flare, I go tap and I get so much relief. Yep. And it's funny, guys, like, it's funny knowing this. Like, my husband, a lot of times will, he'll have something going on with his body and he'll be doing all the things, all the different supplements, all the different stuff. And like, it just won't go away. And I'm like, will you just go into the backyard and like sledgehammer some rocks? I can tell that you are just like an emotional basket case, and you'll feel so much better. And he'll fight me on it, and he'll fight me on it. No, it's this. No, it's this. And he'll take all his supplements and doing all these things for like 2 weeks. And then finally he'll go get his emotions out and he'll be like, oh, yeah, I feel all the way better. I'm like, I know. And sometimes you do need the physical things. It's not to say that sometimes you don't need, a treatment or a physical thing to help with. It's that that's not going to fully work if you're not dealing with the deeper underlying layer that is your emotions. You may have, ALS and need some IV treatment that helps rebuild some part of it. The thing is that you're going to have to keep doing that and have to keep doing that. And you're going to have mixed results until you really get to the emotional underlying reason that's causing that. And then once you do that, it freaking sticks. It freaking sticks. And so it's really, really incredible. Biohacking your DNA is just absolutely incredible. Everything in my life has improved. My health, my relationships, my money, everything. Yes, ma'am. That's how it works. That's how this work works. And it's quite honestly probably the simplest work out there, and you can do it whenever you need to. Okay, so thank you guys for finding me. If you missed the first part of the video, the replay will be up and you can go check that out. I apologize for our technology glitch. I'll go work on my energy around technology working for me. Always. Always. Not just usually, but always. And we will have some more fun tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day where we bring it all together. So tomorrow I'm going to show you exactly how to do the rapid relief technique so that you walk away from here knowing how to do it. We're going to talk about the full formula, all the steps, kind of how you navigate it, how you troubleshoot when things show up in your life. We're going to talk about that, the end part, which is really the nervous system and the reprogramming part after we remove the emotion. And then we're going to talk about the membership. So, big day. We got a big day tomorrow. I want everybody to do, if you didn't do your homework from the first day, which is look at your reality, what's working, what's not, what needs to shift, and then what do you want? Today's homework is I want you to sit down and look at the things in your life that are invoking an emotion. Is it something with your spouse? Is it something with your money? Is it something with your kids? Is it something that you're watching on TV? Even the littlest, tiniest, dumbest things, right? Is it this school shooting that just happened here in America for the 80th time already this year? You know, what is it invoking emotions? Because these are the things we are going to want to pay attention to because there is a much deeper layer. Because have you ever wondered that? Why some people get super emotional over one thing and some people are not bothered by it at all? It's because it's not so much about what's happening out here. It's more about how you're perceiving it that gives us huge indications as to what are your beliefs going on and what emotions do you need to really process so that you can get more of what you want in life. And that's what I'm all about. My mission in life is to get more of what I want while getting more of you people what you want. Win-win. How fun is that? Let's all just get more of what we want. Like, why isn't that like the mission of life? To get more of what we want while helping others get more of what they want. Like, let's just go with that. Let's do it that way. Life sounds a lot better when it's like, I get what I want, you get what you want, we all get what we want. And it's possible. I know it is. Okay, so take some time to look at even maybe those judgments that we did on day one. What kind of emotions are those judgments bringing up in you? And if it's confusing for you and you're like, hey, my emotions, I get it. Like, I get it. It's some of us, I did not have an emotion for like 30 years of my life. So I get it. And so if it feels overwhelming and confusing and you're not even sure what you're doing, don't worry about it. We're going to build more on it tomorrow. All right, beautiful humans. I love you. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. And we will see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow. Mwah.